rocket booster ng SpaceX.
Saan naman kaya bumagsak ang mga ito at may mga natamaan kaya na mga debris? Silipin po natin yan mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Biyernes.
Pilipinas at China nagkasundo na para sa road mission sa Ayungin Shoal.
Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. kinumpirma ang pagdeklara ng food security emergency sa bigas ng Department of Agriculture.
Tutukan ang mga detalye hinggil sa haharaping hamon ni Donald Trump bago siya maging 47th U.S. President.
Bilang ng mga U.S. users ng Red Note app ng China dumami.
At silipin natin ang opisyal na detalyeng inilabas ng Nintendo tungkol sa Switch 2. Papayag na ang Pilipinas at China na ipagpatuloy ang provisional understanding para sa RORE mission patungong BRP Sierra Madre. Ayon po yan sa Department of Foreign Affairs.
Sa kabila nito, patuloy ang pakikipag-usap ng Pilipinas sa China na alisin ang monster ship nito sa loob ng Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. Sa isinagawang 10th bilateral consultation mechanism ng Pilipinas at China, nakipagpulong si Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Maria Teresa Lazaro kay Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Chen Xiaodong sa Manila para sa isang tapat at konstruktibong diskusyon ukol sa sitwasyon sa West Philippine Sea at iba pang bilateral issues. Dito rin ipinahayag ni Lazaro ang pagkabahala ng Pilipinas mula sa kamakailan na kilos ng Chinese Coast Guard vessels sa mga maritime zones ng Pilipinas. Anya, nilalabag nila ang 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea o UNCLOS at ang Philippine Maritime Zones Act. Sa kabila nito, binigyang diin ang kalihim ang pangako ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas na isusulong ang isang mapayapang resolusyon sa issue sa pamamagitan ng dialogo at diplomasya. Mula sa pagpupulong ay nagkasundo rin ng dalawang bansa na palakasin ang ugnayan sa pamamagitan ng kooperasyon sa operasyon ng Coast Guard at Marine Scientific Research.
Kinumpirma ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na magdedeklara ang Department of Agriculture ng food security para sa bigas.
The recommendation, I believe, is going to be to declare an emergency.
Ayon sa Pangulo, hinihintay na lamang ng Agriculture Department ang rekomendasyon ng National Price Coordinating Council. Samantala, binigyan diin naman ng Pangulo na idiniin na iniimbestigahan na ng Kongreso ang patuloy na mataas na presyo ng bigas sa kabila ng mga hakbangin ng gobyerno na mapababa ito.
So we have to force that price down and we have to make sure that the market works properly, na walang friction cost na nangyayari dahil sa sari-sari iba't ibang bagay at yung iba doon illegal, kaya iniimbestigahan ngayon ng Kongreso.
Sa isang survey na isinagawa ng Okta Research ay lumabas na 8 sa 10 katao o 84% ng mga Pilipino ang sumusuporta sa pagsisikap ng pamahalaan na ipagtanggol at igiit ang karapatang pandagat ng Pilipinas sa West Philippine Sea o WPS. Ang mga respondents mula sa Metro Manila ay nagtala ng highest approval na 90%, habang ang pinakamababang approval na 81% naman ay mula sa responders ng Balance Luzon. Kung socio-economic class ang batayan, ay naobserbahan sa Class D ang pinakamataas na antas ng suporta sa 84%. Sinundan ito ng Class E na 83%. Pagdating sa age group, ang mga respondents na nasa edad na 25 hanggang 24 ay nagpahayag o 34 ay nagpahayag ng highest level of agreement at 89%, habang ang nasa edad 18 naman hanggang 24 na nasa 71% ang may pinakamababang suporta sa pagsisikap ng gobyerno na protektahan ang WPS. 91% naman ng responders ang may kamalayan o pamilyar ukol sa mga issue at alitan sa teritoryo sa WPS. Isinagawang nasabing survey noong November 10 hanggang November 16 ng 2024 kung saan lumahok ang 1,200 respondents.
Hindi praktikal na ituloy ang reklamong impeachment laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Yan po ang paninindigan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Ayon sa Pangulo, wrong timing ang impeachment complaint laban kay VP Sara dahil hindi na makabubuo ng quorum dahil campaign period na umano. Sinabi rin ni Marcos na hindi ito ang tamang oras para pagtuunan ng pansin ng Kongreso ang mga inihaing impeachment complaints.
I don't think that now is the time to go through that. So, paubayan na muna natin sa ating... Total, as a practical matter, papasok na tayo sa campaign period. Wala ng congressman, wala ng senador dahil nangangampanya na sila. Hindi tayo makakapagbuo ng quorum. And so, as a practical matter, the timing is very poor. Thank you.
Nakaharap si VP Sara sa 3 impeachment complaints sa Kamara kung saan isa sa magiging abogado niya ay ang ama niyang si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Kaugnay nito ay may mga ilang kamag-anak na mga sinasabing biktima umano ng extrajudicial killings ang dumulog sa Korte Suprema at naghain ng disbarment case laban sa dating Pangulo para matanggalan ito ng lisensya bilang abogado. Subalit, iginiit ni Attorney Salvador Panelo na walang batayan ang disbarment complaint kay Duterte dahil walang patunay na siya ay pumatay at nagpapatay. Wala rin anyang hatol kay Duterte ang anumang korte kaugnay sa EJK killings na ipinaparatang laban dito.
Alam niyo yung sinasabi niyang death squad? Yun yung mga kriminal na pinag-intriga niya para sila magpatayan. Wala siyang pinapatay. In other words, if you are making him accountable for a crime, he has not committed any crime. And assuming that he has committed a crime, you have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt para maging accountable ka. That is the only time you can file a disbarment charge against a member of the bar.
Sa ginanap na International Airborne Commanders Conference o IACC, tinalakay ng Allied Airborne Commanders ang mga umuusbong na banta sa Indo-Pacific region. Ayon kay Philippine Army spokesperson Colonel Louis de Maala, nagsilbi ang IACC bilang daan sa pagsisimula ng mga pag-uusap tungkol sa pagtatatag ng mas maraming comprehensive cooperation and military-to-military agreements sa pagitan ng mga bansang nasa Indo-Pacific. Lumahok sa nasabing pagpupulong ang mga piling sundalo ng Pilipinas kasama ang US Army, US Marine Corps, US Air Force, mga sundalo ng United Kingdom, Canada, Singapore, Australia, the Netherlands, France, Canada, Poland, Italy, Germany at Japan.
Aabot sa 1,600 euros o mahigit 96,000 pesos kada buwan. Depende po yan sa uri ng trabaho at industriya ang mga benepisyo at sahod na matatanggap ng isang Pilipino na magtatrabaho sa Finland. Bukod dito ay maaari pa umanong isama ng isang overseas Filipino worker o OFW ang kanyang pamilya sa nasabing bansa. Sa nilagdaang Joint Declaration of Intent ng Pilipinas at Finland ay posible ring tulungan ng Finland ang asawa ng isang OFW na makapaghanap ng trabaho roon. Sinabi rin ni Finland Minister Arto Olavi Sartonen na pwede ring makapag-aral sa kanilang bansa ang anak ng isang manggagawang Pinoy. Kabilang sa mga manggagawa na kailangan ng Finland ay mga skilled workers, hotel and tourism workers, restaurant staff, information technology personnel at healthcare workers kagaya ng mga nursing staff and caregivers.
Nanawagan si U.S. Senator Marco Rubio na dapat nang ihinto ng China ang panggugulo nito sa Pilipinas at sa Taiwan. Sa confirmation hearing ng napipisil na Secretary of State ni incoming President Donald Trump ay pinayuhan ni Rubio ang China na kung seryoso ang Beijing na maging matatag ang relasyon ng U.S. at China ay huwag itong gagawa ng alinmang bagay na hindi makatwiran.
Let's leave Taiwan out of it for a moment and say it's the Philippines. Okay, in the last 48 hours, there's this massive, I don't even know how to describe it, but this massive ship that the Chinese have built that's like headed towards the Philippines, and the Philippines feels threatened by it. rightfully so. We've seen this on a daily basis with the harassment and so forth, but on a daily basis. If, God forbid, there is some miscommunication or some inadvertent conflict emerges there, and we have obligations to them, the impact that will have on the entire globe, the impact that it will have on the entire globe is enormous, and that includes Europe. So they have a selfish, vested interest in seeking for the Chinese to curb their behaviors. I would also point to the Europeans that what the Russians have done with Ukraine would not have been possible without the assistance of China, whether it's the sharing of technology or aid in evading sanctions or selling their oil in secondary markets. The Chinese have been hidden, but clear to everyone watching, partners in the Russian endeavor.
Yeah.
And
Asahan naman ng mga motorista ang malaking dagdag sa presyong produktong petrolyo. Ayon sa Department of Energy Oil Industry Management Bureau, posibleng tumaas ng piso 35 hanggang piso 65 ang presyo kada litro ng gasolina. 2.30 hanggang 2.60 naman ang taas sa presyo ng kada litro ng diesel, habang 2.30 hanggang 2.50 naman ang dagdag sa kada litro ng kerosene. Ayon sa ahensya, isa sa nakakaapekto sa presyo ng langis ay ang pagpapataw ng Amerika at ng United Kingdom ng bagong sanctions sa Russian oil. Susunod, Chinese Vice President Hanggang dumalo o dadalo sa inaugurasyon ni Donald Trump.
WHO nanawagan sa international community para sa Gaza.
At airstrike sa Gaza, nangyari nga ba pagkatapos ng ceasefire deal? Mga detalye po ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion.
We are still waiting.
Sisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Malagim na aksidente sa Kalumpit, Bulacan na ikinamatay ng 2 motorista ating inimbestigahan. Exclusive contractor na ipinapaayos na bahay na naglaho matapos mabayaran, inreklamo. Hiling na tulong ng isang ina na iginagapang mag-isa ang kanyang 6 na anak. May responde na.
Kung pwede ko nga lang ibigay yung buhay ko sa kanya, ibibigay ko kasi hindi po pwede.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's live together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Bagong episode na naman tayo sa Corina Interviews. Nakilala siya ng mga Gen Z ngayon bilang si Achi sa isang patok na teleserye. Pero excuse me, hindi lang siya pang telebisyon o pelikula. Ang nag-iisang Celeste Legaspi, institusyon sa industriya ng pag-aawit. Producer, anong sikreto para maabot ang brilyong mayroon siya na tanging sa kanya lang at maging reyna ng original Filipino music? Ang kanyang kwento and journey dito lang sa Corina Interviews ngayong linggo, 6 p.m. pagkatapos ng comedy series na Goodwill sa NET25.
Sa NET25.
Ngayong unang buwan ng 2025, gaganapin ang pinakaabangang inaugurasyon ni US President-elect Donald Trump na ihirangin bilang ika-47 Pangulo ng Estados Unidos. Mula sa ilang failed assassination attempts hanggang sa patong-patong na kasong isinampa sa kanya, ay nanatiling malakas at hindi natinag si Trump at ngayon ay nakatakdang muling umupo bilang presidente ng Amerika. Matapos manalo sa halalan si Trump noong November 2024, naranasan ng Estados Unidos ang tinatawag na Trump Rush o Trump Trades na siyang pagsipa ng halaga ng Bitcoin sa world market, kung saan ay nalampasan nito ang $100,000 mark. Pero ang tanong ngayon ay handa na ba ang mundo sa kanyang muling pag-upo bilang bagong Pangulo ng Estados Unidos? Matatandaang noong nangangampanya pa si Trump, nagbanta itong magpapataw ng malaking taripa sa mga produktong papasok sa Amerika. Maraming umalma sa pahayag ni Trump, partikular na ang mga malalaking trade partners ng US katulad ng China, ng Canada at Mexico. Isa lamang ito sa mga malalaking pagbabagong nakaambang ikasa sa ilalim ng administrasyong Trump. Plano rin niyang magsagawa ng mass deportation bilang isa sa mga unang hakbang tungo sa pagsasaayos ng bansa. Ang mass deportation na tinutukoy ay para sa mga iligal na migrante sa Amerika. Pero pahayag naman ng mga US migration officers na katuon ang deportation sa mga kriminal na mga migrante. Kung susuriin, hindi basta-basta ang gustong mangyari ni Trump sa Estados Unidos. May mga hindi pangkaraniwang banat si Trump sa ilang mga pinuno ng ibang mga bansa. Kagaya na lamang ng pagpapahayag ng intensyong bilhin ng Greenland mula sa Denmark at mga o kaya'y gawing 51st state ng US ang Canada. Palitan ang pangalan ng Gulf of Mexico bilang Gulf of America at ang pagbawi ng kontrol sa Panama Canal. Sa mga pahayag na ito ay maraming mga political analysts ang nagsasabing mahina ang prinsipyo ni Trump pagdating sa foreign policy at hindi makatotohanan ang tingin nito sa mundo bilang susunod na Pangulo ng Estados Unidos. Anila, bumakfire kay Trump ang kanyang tila mapangbuling aksyon base sa kanya'y umano'y chaotic and destabilizing mandates. Mariin naman ang di pagsang-ayon ng mga pinuno ng ilang mga bansa laban sa mga pahayag ni Trump. Isa na rito si Greenland Prime Minister Mute Egede kung saan ay iginiit nito ang kasarinlan ng Greenland. Umalma rin si Greenlandic Finance Minister Erik Jensen at muling inulit ang pahayag ni Egede laban kay Trump.
Grønland er ikke til salg. Det har vi jo sagt alle sammen, og det kommer aldrig til salg. Og det kan jeg også konkludere. Altså, det kommer aldrig på tale. Det er vores land, og det er os, der kommer til at tegne vores fremtid. Og så den der køb om Grønland, eller kontrol over Grønland, det kommer ikke til at ske.
Sa kabila ng isyong ito, inamin ng Denmark na matagal na panahon rin nilang nakaligtaan ang seguridad ng Greenland. Namulat sila sa katotohanan ito matapos sabihin ni President-elect Donald Trump na magiging maganda para sa seguridad ng Estados Unidos ang pag-angkin sa naturang Arctic Island. Matatandaan naman na gumanti si Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum laban sa naging pahayag ni Trump na tawaging Gulf of America ang Gulf of Mexico. Bumuelta si Sheinbaum at inilabas ang isang bersyon ng mapa ng North America kung saan pinangalanan nitong America Mexicana o Mexican America sa Ingles.
El Golfo de México es reconocido el nombre por Naciones Unidas, un organismo de Naciones Unidas, pero el siguiente, ¿por qué no le llamamos América Mexicana? Se oye bonito, ¿no? ¿Verdad que sí? Desde 1607, la Constitución de Apatzingán era de América Mexicana. Entonces, vamos a llamarle América Mexicana. Se oye bonito, ¿no? Y Golfo de México, pues, desde 1607 y además está reconocido internacionalmente.
Nitong Disyembre naman ay pinabulaanan ni Panama President Jose Raul Maulino ang paratang ni Trump na ang nasa likod umano na operasyon sa Panama Canal ay mga Chinese soldiers. Giit rito ni Maulino, si Trump ay hindi pa ganap na Pangulo ng Estados Unidos kung kaya marapat na hintayin muna niyang siya ay makapanumpa para sa pagkapangulo bago makipag-usap ukol sa nasabing issue.
Es un sinsentido. No existe un solo soldado chino en el canal, por Dios. Y por otro lado, no va a existir, y nosotros mantenemos con China una relación respetuosa, bien manejada, en materia de lo que nos interesa a los dos países. Y yo siempre he mencionado que en lo personal a mí me interesa mucho la relación con China por efecto de exportaciones panameñas a un mercado que lo necesita todo. Yo esperaré el 20 de enero para poder hacer lo que corresponda, que no lo tengo todavía definido, con un gobierno de los Estados Unidos. En este momento el señor Trump no es presidente ni tiene gobierno alguno. Así que lo que él diga, ya se lo aclaré, y para mí esperaré el 20 de enero para poder tener un gobierno enfrente con el cual poder conversar, poder hablar de este y de muchos temas.
Ang Panama Canal ay nagsisilbing crossing point para sa mga ship travel sa pagitan ng Atlantic at Pacific Ocean nang hindi kinakailangang umikot pa sa palibot ng South America. Nitong January 6 naman ay nag-resign si former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sa gitna ng 9 na taong pamumuno sa kanyang bansa. Ayon sa mga political analysts, pinaniniwala ang dahil ito sa naging political shake-up sa gabinete ni Trudeau, katulad ng pagbibitiw sa pwesto ng kanyang dating finance minister na si Chrystia Freeland.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Bunsod nito ay muling inihirit ni Trump ang nauna na niyang imbitasyon sa Canada na maging 51st state ng Amerika. Hindi naman nagustuhan ni Trudeau ang pahayag ni Trump at muling iginiit na hindi ito mangyayari.
As a successful negotiator, he likes to keep people a little off balance. The 51st state, that's not going to happen. It's just a non-starter. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian.
Sa kabila ng mga maaanghang na tugon ng ilang mga pinuno ng bansa laban kay Trump, ay wala nang makapipigil sa nalalapit na inaugurasyon nito. Sa susunod na linggo ay masasaksihan na ng Estados Unidos at ng buong mundo ang panunumpa ni Trump. Nitong Huwebes ay pinaabot na ni outgoing President Joe Biden ang kanyang farewell address sa mga mamamayan ng Amerika.
My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
Bagamat may mga pinuno ng bansa na hindi pabor sa polisiya ni Donald Trump, nanatili naman ang interes ng US bilang kaalyado ng Pilipinas at nangakong patuloy na isasaalang-alang ang kapakanan ng mga Pilipinong nasa Estados Unidos. Una nang kinumpirma ni Department of Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega na hindi target ng mass deportation ng administrasyon ni Trump ang mga undocumented Filipinos kundi ang mga kriminal o terorista ang pupintiryahin ito. Panahon na lamang ang makapagsasabi kung ano ang magiging lagay ng relasyon ng Pilipinas at Estados Unidos sa ilalim ng administrasyon ni Trump. Kaya sa araw ng Martes ay sama-sama nating subaybayan ang aming coverage sa inaugurasyon ni US President-elect Donald Trump.
Sa iba pa mga balita, ayon sa Chinese state media, nakatakdang dumalo si Vice President Hanggang sa inaugurasyon ni President-elect Donald Trump. Ang pagtugon ng China ay nakatuon sa pagpapakita ng Beijing na handa silang palawakin ang ugnayan ng Chinese Communist Party sa bagong administrasyon ng Estados Unidos. Sinabi ni Trump noong January 6 na nakikipagdialogo siya kay Chinese President Xi Jinping sa pamamagitan ng mga representante na nagpapahayag ng optimismo tungkol sa kanilang ugnayan. Ilang beses na rin sinabi ni Trump na nais niyang patawan ng karagdagang 10% ang taripa sa mga produkto na galing China kung walang gagawin ng Beijing upang mapigilan ang pagpasok ng fentanyl sa Estados Unidos. Nagtalaga si Trump ng iilang kritiko ng China sa mga matataas na posisyon sa kanyang administrasyon. Isa na po rito si Senator Marco Rubio bilang kanyang Secretary of State.
Nanawagan sa international community ang World Health Organization o WHO upang hilingin na umaksyon ng mga miyembro ng Estado para sa mas mabilis na humanitarian aid sa Gaza. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Kathleen Gao.
Isang araw matapos i-anunsyo ang Gaza Ceasefire Deal Agreement, umapila ang WHO sa member states na mag-step up pagdating sa pagtulong sa Gaza. Lalo pat tila patapos na nga ang 15 buwang labanan sa gitnang silangan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. Ayon sa WHO, kailangang suportahan ng member states, donors nito at ng global community kabilang ang pribadong sektor ang agarang pangangailangan sa kalusugan at ang pangmatagalang pagbuong muli ng healthcare system ng Gaza. Ayon kay Rick Peppercorn na kinatawan ng WHO sa Gaza, hindi kaya ng United Nations tugunan ito mag-isa.
This is the time for member states, donors and the global community to step up, to provide this flexible funding and to enable the swift and effective responses and for the urgent and longer-term needs. And the UN cannot deliver the response alone on all fronts. The private sector is critical and private supply chains should be restored and basic commodities allowed to flood Gaza.
Kasama sa kasunduan ng 600 truck ng humanitarian aid na dapat makapasok sa Gaza kada araw. Ani Peppercorn, handa ang WHO maghatid ng tulong, subalit kailangan mawala ang mga hadlang sa seguridad. Samantala, tinanggap man ni WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus ang kasunduan. Nananatili anay siyang maingat dahil ilang ulit nang hindi nagkakatotoo ang ganitong mga usapan. Ani ni Dr. Tedros, kung sinsero ang bawat partido sa kasunduang ito, hindi na kailangan mag-antay pa ng linggo bago simulan.
We welcome this news with great relief, but also with sorrow that it has come too late for those who have died in the conflict, and with caution given that we have had false dawns before, and the deal has not yet been confirmed. Although the agreement would only come into effect on Sunday, if both sides are committed to a ceasefire, it should start immediately. We urge Israel's cabinet to approve the deal and all sides to honor and implement it. We sincerely hope that this agreement marks the end of the darkest chapter in the history of the relationship between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Dagdag ng hepe ng WHO, kailangan ng ahensya ang $1.5 billion upang matulungan ang 300 million na mga tao na nakatira sa 42 emergency zones mula Gaza hanggang Afghanistan. Katlinga para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Umabot na po sa 81 katao ang nasawi habang 188 na iba pa ang sugatan sa nangyayaring airstrikes ng Israel sa Gaza. Ito ay nangyari umano bago pa man ang pag-iral ng ceasefire deal sa pagitan ng Hamas at Israel sa linggo. Matatanda ang una nang inanunsyo ng Qatar at US government ang peace deal ng dalawang panig kung saan sila ang mga naging mediators. Ayon sa Hamas-run Health Ministry, naitala ang mga nasawi sa loob lamang ng isang araw. Lumalabas na nagkaroon ng 8 ulit na pag-atake ang Israeli forces. Wala pang opisyal na pahayag na inilalabas ang Israel kaugnay ng naganap na mga pag-atake. Samantala, sinabi ng Estados Unidos na ang kasunduang tigil putukan sa Gaza ay nagbubukas ng pinto upang matapos na ang cycle ng violence sa gitnang silangan. Leslie Gumarang po para sa balita.
Ayon kay State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller, babaliin ng Gaza ceasefire deal ang siklo ng karahasan sa rehiyon ng Middle East.
The ceasefire announced today opens the door to breaking the cycle of violence that has long plagued the region, if leaders there are finally prepared to make the tough decisions necessary.
Ani Miller nakasalalay na ngayon sa rehiyon at sa US kung paanong gagawing pangmatagalan ang kapayapaan doon.
This ceasefire is an important achievement, and it is now incumbent upon everyone in the region and in the United States to do what they can to turn it into a lasting peace.
Subalit dagdag ni Miller, nasa paparating na Trump administration kung paanong mapaninindigan na kapag nangako ang Estados Unidos, sino man ang nakapwesto ay maaasahan ito.
This administration's term in office will expire in 5 days. And one of the things that we have always said about this deal is that when you get from stage 1 to stage 2, that the United States, Egypt, and Qatar are the guarantors of this deal. And Egypt and Qatar will push Hamas to stay at the bargaining table and to get from stage 1 to stage 2, and the United States will push Israel to stay at the bargaining table to get from phase 1 and phase 2. So obviously those are promises we cannot make on behalf of the United States for any longer than the next 5 days. And so it's critical that all of the parties to the agreement and the other mediators see that when the United States is in the room making commitments, those are lasting commitments that extend beyond this administration into the next one.
Ukol naman sa humanitarian aid na hindi maitatangging kailangang makapasok ng Gaza at makarating sa mga nangangailangan, sinabi ni Miller kung ilang truck ng tulong kada araw ang inaasahang makatawid.
We are looking at a massive infusion of trucks somewhere. Hopefully, it won't happen overnight, but we want to get up to over 500 trucks a day. Excuse me, that come into Gaza, and the critical thing that we believe the ceasefire unlocks is a real solution to that last mile distribution problem that we have had, that humanitarian organizations have had in Gaza.
Sa pagpapasalamat ni Biden sa kanyang National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at iba pang mga opisyal, sinabi nitong ang kasunduan sa Gaza ay naabot matapos ang ilang buwang negosasyon ng kanyang administrasyon. Sa Lunes, 20 ng Enero, opisyal nang magtatapos ang Biden administration na papalitan naman ng pamahalaang Trump. Leslie Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Kahit pinaplansya pa ang ilang detalye ng ceasefire deal sa Gaza, kumpiyansa naman po ang Estados Unidos na magsisimula na ang tigil putukan sa linggo, 19 ng Enero. Anjo Milano po para sa report.
Noong Huwebes, sinabi ni outgoing US State Secretary Antony Blinken na confident itong magsisimula na ang ceasefire deal ng Israel at Hamas sa araw ng linggo. Sa kanyang huling news conference bilang pangunahing diplomat ng bansa, sinabi nitong kausap niya si US negotiator Brett McGurk at Qatari officials umaga ng Huwebes upang maresolba ang natitira pang mga issue.
On the ceasefire, yes, I am confident, and I fully expect that implementation will begin, as we said, on Sunday. Look, it's not exactly surprising that in a process and a negotiation that has been this challenging and this fraught, you may get a loose end. We're tying up that loose end as we speak. I've been on the phone in one way or another all morning with Brett McGurk, with our Qatari friends, and I'm very confident that this is moving forward, and we'll see the start of implementation of the agreement on Sunday.
Dagdag ni Blinken, ito ay sandali ng napakalaking ginhawa para sa Israelis at Palestinians. Sinabi nitong isang anak ng hostage ang nagsalita para sa marami na hindi sila makaantay na makauwi na ang mga bihag sa kani-kanilang pamilya. Ani Blinken, ito rin ay sandali ng makasaysayang posibilidad para sa rehiyon at sa iba pa. Para makamit ang posibilidad na iyon, sinabi ni Blinken na kailangan ng matinding pagsisikap, tapang politikal at kompromiso. Ayon kay Blinken, may dalawang bagay na agaran dapat may isagawa. Una, ipatupad ang ceasefire deal. Ikalawa, makabuo ng epektibong plano na tutugon sa transitional na gobyerno sa Gaza.
Over 15 months of devastating conflict between Israel and Hamas, we've worked to broker a deal that would bring hostages home, that would stop the fighting, that would surge humanitarian aid to people who so desperately need it, that would create the space to conclude a permanent ceasefire. We now have that, and we expect implementation of the agreement to begin on Sunday.
Anjo Milano para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Hindi makadadalo sa inauguration ni US President-elect Donald Trump si dating First Lady Michelle Obama. Ayon sa kanyang opisina, ang tanging makadadalo sa inauguration ay si dating Pangulong Barack Obama. Hindi naman na sila nagbigay ng anumang dahilan sa hindi pagdalo ni dating unang ginang. Nagiging tradisyon na kasi na sa tuwing may bagong uupong Pangulo ng Estados Unidos ay dinadaluhan ito ng mga dating Pangulo at kanilang mga kabiyak. Nagbigay ng kumpirmasyong dadalo sa inaugurasyon ni Trump sina dating President George W. Bush at asawa niyang si Laura Bush. Ganon din si dating Pangulong Bill Clinton at Hillary Clinton. Magugunitang makailang beses na binatikos ni Michelle Obama si Trump na inilagay niya umano sa kapahamakan ang kanilang buhay. Sa ilang okasyon na rin, napuna si First Lady Melania Trump sa pangungopya ng mga speech ni former First Lady Michelle Obama na kinumentuhan naman ni President-elect Donald Trump na nagresulta sa pagbatikos kay Michelle Obama.
From a young age, my parents impressed on me the values that you work hard for what you want in life, that your word is your bond, and you do what you say and keep your promise.
Barack and I were raised with so many of the same values. Like, you work hard for what you want in life, that your word is your bond, that you do what you say you're going to do.
Michelle Obama gives a speech, and everyone loves it. It's fantastic. They think she's absolutely great. My wife, Melania, gives the exact same speech. And people get on her case. And I don't get it. I don't know why.
Susunod, SpaceX Starship sumabog at nagkalat ng debris habang papalipad.
Nintendo Switch 2 ilalabas na ngayong taon.
At Novak Djokovic may bagong record. Iba pang detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng mata ng Agila International.
been waiting for.
Excited ka na bang malaman kung ikaw ang nanalo ng mga exciting prizes na ito sa ating NET25 Selfie with the Agila promo? Abangan ang nalalapit na announcement ng winners sa Love, Tony Pet, and Everything. Kada umaga, ESPN, sa ganang mamamayan at mata ng Agila Primetime. Kaya naman tumutok lang dito sa NET25.
Everyone to watch our show tuwing Sabado at Linggo mula alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga. Siyempre, itong tahanan, dito lang yan sa NET25! Matapos paliparin ng SpaceX patungo sa kalawakan ang kanilang Starship rocket ay sumabog ito sa himpapawid kung saan nagkalat ang mga debris nito. Dahil dito ay namataan ng maraming tao sa West Indies region ang pagbagsak ng mga rocket debris. Ayon sa SpaceX, pinalipad ang spacecraft sa mula Texas kung saan dapat ito lumipad at tumawid sa Gulf of Mexico. At dahil sa malfunction na naranasan ng rocket, sumabog ito sa ere.
Isang individual ang nasaktan sa nasunog na kasino sa Mexico. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nagsimula ang apoy sa kalapit nitong trampoline park sa Cinepolis Shopping Plaza. Makikita sa video na unti-unting nilalamon ng apoy ang gusali habang binalot ito ng makapal at maitim na usok. Agad namang rumesponde ang mga bumbero sa Sinaloa para apulahin ang apoy sa gusali.
Kinumpirma ng mga otoridad sa California na hindi ang Tesla Megapack battery storage facility ang nasunog sa Moss Landing. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, ang sunog sa Moss Landing ay pagmamayari ng Vistra Energy Company kung saan ay ang pinakamalaki nitong pabrika sa mundo. Sa kasalukuyan, hindi apektado ng nasabing sunog ang Tesla Energy Storage.
Patay ang 2 katao habang isa pang sugatan matapos na sila ay pagsasasaksakin ng sa isang eskwelahan sa Slovakia. Base sa investigasyon ng mga otoridad, inatake ng sospek gamit ang isang kutsilyo ang isang guro at 2 pa niyang kapwa estudyante. Unang inatake nito ang guro at ilang mga mag-aaral gamit ang nasabing kutsilyo. Ilang medical crew ang sumugod sa eksena ngunit hindi na nila naisalba ang buhay ng 2 biktima. Nasa kritikal na kalagayan naman ang isa pa sa mga biktima. Parating ang Interior Minister at Education Minister sa Spisas Tara Ves upang ipaabot ang kanilang taus-pusong pakikiramay sa pamilya ng mga nasawi.
Nagdeklara ng state of emergency at travel warning ang ibang bahagi ng Estados Unidos dahil sa paparating na winter storm. Nagdeklara na ng state of emergency ang Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Arkansas, Alaska at iba pang bahagi ng New Jersey. Naka-weather alert din ang nasa 30 ibang estado sa US at ilang bahagi ng Canada dahil ang naturang winter storm ay nagbaba ng niebe na halos 6 na pulgada ang sukat. Sa ngayon ay nasa halos 1,400 US flights ang nakansela at 899 naman ang napilitang mag-reroute dahil sa naturang weather phenomenon. Tinatansyang nasa 60 milyon na Amerikano ang maaapektuhan ng nasabing bagyo.
Nangangalap ang China ng intelligence sa Taiwan sa pamamagitan ng pakikipagtulungan sa mga grupong kriminal, mga shell companies at iba pang kahina-hinalang mga tao. Yan ang revelasyon ng Intelligence Bureau ng Taipei. Ayon sa mga otoridad, nakababahala ito lalo na't tumataas ang bilang ng mga nahuhuling espiya umano ng China sa Taiwan. Nagbabayad nila ng cryptocurrency ang mga Chinese agents sa mga miyembro ng underworld gang kapalit ng pagbibigay ng impormasyon at sikreto ukol sa defense system ng Taiwan. Ito nila ang gagamitin ng China para sa reunification ng Taiwan.
Dahil malapit na lumabas ang desisyon ng Supreme Court of the United States ukol sa isyu ng TikTok, maraming residente ng Estados Unidos ang lumilipat na sa social media app na kung tawagin po ay Red Note. Ang Red Note ay pamamayari ng Xinjiang Information Technology na nakabase sa Shanghai. Kilala rin ito sa tawag na Xiaohongshu sa China. Subalit, ayon sa mga opisyal ng Washington, hindi safe ang mga TikTok refugees sa Red Note dahil may banta pa rin ito sa seguridad. Dati nang ibinalita na nais ng mga mambabatas ng US na ibenta ng TikTok ang US operations nito.
Matapos ang 7 taong paghihintay, opisyal nang inanunsyo ng Nintendo ang Switch 2. Bagaman trailer pa lamang ang inilabas ng Nintendo ay marami na itong impormasyon na ibinigay sa mga sumusubaybay sa bagong console. Ilan sa mga ito ang rescale sa laki ng console, mas malaki at makapal ang frame nito, may kasamang stand sa likod at pinaganda rin ang Joy controller nito. May mga detalye rin mula sa trailer na ang Switch 2 ay may backward compatibility. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng malaro dito ang mga lahat o ang lahat ng mga Switch games. Ayon naman sa Nintendo, ilalabas nito ang iba pang detalye sa Nintendo Direct event nito sa April 2025.
Nahigitan na ni Novak Djokovic ang record ni retired tennis star Roger Federer sa may pinakamaraming Grand Slam singles na nilaro. Nangyari ito matapos na talunin niya si Jaime Faria ng Portugal sa ikalawang round ng Australian Open sa score na 6-1, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2. Ito na ang pang 430th na slam contest ni Djokovic kung saan mayroong 429 lamang si Federer at 423 naman si Serena Williams. Ang pagpasok ni Djokovic sa ikatlong round ay siyang pang-17 magkasunod na taon na kanyang naitala. At kahit na mataloan niya ito ay labis na siyang nasisiyahan dahil sa nakapagtala na ito ng record sa tennis. Susunod na makakaharap ito sa ikatlong round si Thomas Makak ng Czech Republic.
Lubos ang pasasalamat ngayon ni Pinay tennis star Alex Ayala matapos ang muling pag-akyat ng kanyang ranking sa Women's Tennis Association. Ayon kasi sa pinakahuling ranking na inilabas ng WTA ay 136th na siya ngayon. Noong unang linggo na Enero ay nasa pang 143 lamang ito matapos ang bigong makausad sa main draw ng Australian Open. Tinalo kasi siya ni Jan Fett ng Croatia sa score na 7-5, 6-2 sa Grand Slam qualifiers. Sinabi ng 19-year-old na si Ayala na kanyang pagbubutihin ang paglalaro para mas lalong umangat ang kanyang world ranking.
Halos 2 taon mula nang umalis si T.O.P. sa K-pop group na Big Bang ay inamin nitong na-guilty siya sa kanyang desisyon. Umalis anya siya sa grupo dahil pakiramdam niya ay wala siyang karapatan na manatili sa sikat na boy band group. Madalas din na anya ang sumagi sa kanyang isipan na magkakaroon ng reunion ang dati niyang grupo. Matatandaang noong taong 2017 na ay nasentensyahan si T.O.P. ng 10 buwan na pagkakakulong dahil sa paggamit ng iligal na droga sa South Korea. Kaya malaki ang pasasalamat ng dating K-pop idol sa producers ng Netflix show na Squid Game dahil inalok siya na gumanap sa karakter na si Thanos.
Pumanaw na po ang American filmmaker, writer at artist na si David Lynch sa edad na 78. Sa ngayon ay wala pang inilalabas na cause of death ang kanyang mga kapamilya, ngunit noong nakaraang taon ay nagkaroon ito ng emphysema. Sa pahayag ng kanyang pamilya na inilabas nila sa Facebook page mismo ni David Lynch, sinulat nila na it is with deep regret that we, his family, announce the passing of the man and the artist, David Lynch. There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us, but as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole. Kilala si Lynch bilang direktor ng isang o ilang award-winning na palabas katulad ng Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Wild at Heart, The Elephant Man at Razorhead. Nakilala rin si Lynch para sa kanyang surrealist style at dahil sa hilig nito sa dream sequence. Bukod sa pagsusulat ng naturang screenplay ay dinirekta niya ito at madalas na tumutulong din ito sa paggawa ng score o soundtrack ng kanyang mga pelikula.
Samantala, masayang ipinagdiwang ng Blackpink member na si Jennie ang kanyang 29th birthday. Sinabi niya sa kanyang mga fans na may bago siyang music project at ipinasulyap pa ang ilan niyang ginawa sa recording studio. Binati naman ni Rosie at Jisoo si Jennie ng happy birthday at nagpasalamat si Rosie sa pagkakaroon ng isang kapatid na kagaya ni Jennie at masayaan niya siya sa kanilang naging bonding sessions. Nag-share rin si Jisoo ng stories ito sa Instagram at sinabing isa sa matatawag niya na eternity people si Jennie.
Sa ibang balita, isang higanting spherical peony lantern ang bigla na lamang sumulpot sa Qianmen area sa Beijing. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, isinabit ito bilang bahagi ng pagdiriwang ng spring season ng mga locals doon. May sukat na 10 metrong diametro ang bilog na lantern habang ito ay nakasabit sa pagitan ng dalawang gusali gamit ang iron cables. Mayroon din itong detalyadong peony pattern para iakma sa temang spring season. Ang China kasi naghahanda sa pagdating ng spring season holidays simula ngayong Enero hanggang Pebrero.
Naging espesyal naman ang gabi ng isang Wheel of Fortune contestant matapos biglang mag-propose ang kanyang kabiyak sa gitna mismo ng game show. Sa 50th anniversary episode ng game show ay inanunsyo ng dalawang hosts nito na sina Ryan Seacrest at Vanna White na tutulungan nila ang kasintahan ni Rhea Matthew na si Robin. Habang naglalaro si Rhea ay sa hindi inaakala nitong ang word puzzle na naka-flash sa kanyang screen ay mga salitang magpapaluha pala sa kanya. Will you marry me? Ito ang katagang lumabas sa screen at matapos maipanalo ni Rhea ang laro ay biglang lumabas itong si Robin. Ako, kinikilig ako. Dito nagulat si Rhea at naging emotional na nga. Matapos lumuhod si Robin ay nag-propose ito.
And Rhea again.
Will you marry me?
Oh, nicely done.
Susan Matthew, will you marry me?
Sayang sinilent na eh. Alam ko kung ano yung sinagot ni
Ano sinabi?
Rhea
Yes or no?
dun sa, will you marry me? Ang sagot ni Rhea, yes, I will marry Rhea.
Oy, kasi
Happy
naman,
Friday.
Friday na nga pala, akalain mo.
Si Derek parang
Akala ko sasabihin
galit,
niya,
oh.
can I buy a vowel first?
Yung mga ganun. Tuloy yung laro, di ba?
Di ba? Pero naku, kinikilig ako. Nakakatuwa
Totoo.
yung mga ganyang stories of love and relationships.
Hindi kasi talaga naman yung ma-proposan ka, nakakakilig enough na yun eh, di ba?
Oo.
Pero yung if it's done in a way that's creative, that's imaginative, na full of effort, talagang lalong nakakakilig.
At saka kahit alam na natin yung mangyayari, nung lumabas pa rin itong si Robin, talaga namang biglang napaluha ko. May konting tear ako dito.
Diba, no?
Teary-eyed ako.
Tsaka iting si Rhea, sobrang unassuming. Hindi niya inakalang dun pala
Kasi
ang punta.
syempre, she was so wrapped up in the game, di ba, of winning. Naku, naabutan mo ba yung game na yan?
Oo
Nina?
naman.
Oo, ako, favorite
Fairness,
game ko
si
yan.
Vanna White. Oo.
Buti lang sa akin napunta yung item na yan. Kasi favorite ko yan. As a matter of fact, tawag ito, saktong-sakto siya sa akin. Dahil ang favorite ko naman na hobby dati nung kabataan natin, magbasa ng Webster's Dictionary. Alam mo yung ganyan kakapal, panahon namin yan, hindi na mga encyclopedia. Naku, yung mga kabataan ngayon, hindi na.
Nag-iisa ka, Ricky. Pero it's good kung ganun yung mga nakakahiligan mo, di ba? Better yan sa maraming iba pang hobbies, di ba?
At saka may trivia ako. Dahil dyan, sa Wheel of Fortune, alam niyo po ba, mga kababayan, ang most common used letters in the alphabet, R-S-T-L-N-E. Yan.
Ayun.
Diba,
One lang naman ang score sa Scrabble. Yun ang kinasasama yung loob ko.
Diba, magsa-Scrabble kami ni Nina. Sana makapag-Scrabble din po kayo ngayon weekend. Dahil akalain mo, Nina. Akalain niyo po, Friday na naman. Kaya magkita-kita po ulit tayo sa darating na Lunes. Subalit ngayon, sana po ay enjoy nyo itong mga araw na ito kasama ang inyong mga mahal sa buhay. At tandaan, narito kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Happy weekend, everybody. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores na bumabati rin ng isang masigabot punong-puno ng siglang weekend po para sa inyong lahat. Ito pa rin ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. We're following the latest on the delicate ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, still awaiting final approval from Israel's government. A U.S. official said the deal is expected to hold, but the parliamentary vote has been pushed to Saturday.
On the ceasefire, yes, I am confident, and I fully expect that implementation will begin, as we said, on Sunday.
President Biden opened his address yesterday with a focus on the historic ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas, which brought an end to the 15-month conflict in Gaza. Earlier, the outgoing president gave a sarcastic response when asked who between him and Donald Trump would be credited for the ceasefire.
Thank you.
Who takes credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
And the news starts now. We're following the latest on the delicate ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, still awaiting final approval from Israel's government. A U.S. official said the deal is expected to hold, but the parliamentary vote has been pushed to Saturday, which would also delay the first hostage release from Sunday to Monday.
On the ceasefire, yes, I am confident, and I fully expect that implementation will begin, as we said, on Sunday. Look, it's not exactly surprising that in a process and a negotiation that has been this challenging and this fraught, you may get a loose end. We're tying up that loose end as we speak. I've been on the phone in one way or another all morning with Brett McGurk, with our Qatari friends, and I'm very confident that this is moving forward, and we'll see the start of implementation of the agreement on Sunday.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had earlier accused Hamas of backing out on part of the agreement, but officials now say that issue has been resolved. The first phase of the deal involves a 6-week ceasefire and exchanges of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners. In the meantime, fighting continues. Israeli airstrikes have reportedly killed more than 80 people in the last 24 hours, according to Hamas officials in Gaza. Netanyahu faces immense pressure to sign off on the deal, but doing so could cost him support from hardliners in his cabinet, possibly even triggering early elections.
Therefore, if this reckless deal is approved and implemented, the Jewish Power Party will give the resignation letter to the Prime Minister. The Jewish Power Party will not be part of the government and will withdraw from it. If the war on Hamas is renewed, that's what I said to the Prime Minister, with force in order to decide and realize the unachieved goals of the war, we will return to the government.
Families of the hostages remain anxious. Activists fear the complexity of the agreement could cause it to collapse at any point, with both sides deeply distrustful of each other.
Well, the cabinet vote is supposed to be tomorrow morning. I hope that will be tomorrow morning, and it's supposed to be today. And we are really, really waiting for the official proof that the deal is signed, and we can go on. And on Sunday we will see hostages here in Israel. We are very, very tired. It's very hard days to hold it. We're broken, and we really hope that the deal will sign soon.
We really hope and pray that his effort will be fruitful and we can get all our hostages back as soon as possible. This has been a tremendously amount of pressure on the families, and we just hope this period will be over. We don't see any point in the schedule, this lengthy schedule of the deal. We think that everyone could be back home in 2 weeks.
In an update, the Israeli Prime Minister's office has confirmed that the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal is expected to begin as originally scheduled on Sunday. And this comes after hours of uncertainty over the timing of final cabinet approval. The office stated, pending approval by the Security Cabinet and the government and the agreement taking effect, the release of the hostages will be implemented according to the planned framework in which the hostages are expected to be released on Sunday. The Philippines has welcomed the long-awaited ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, as well as the release of hostages in Gaza. Spokesperson for the Department of Foreign Affairs, Teresita Daza, emphasized that the Philippines called for all parties to uphold their responsibilities under international law, and this includes protecting civilians, particularly women and children, and ensuring humanitarian assistance reaches those in need. Daza also reaffirmed the Philippines' unwavering commitment to a two-state solution, one that addresses the rights and needs of both Palestinian and Israeli civilians and aims to bring about lasting peace and security in the region. President Biden opened his address yesterday with a focus on the historic ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas, which brought an end to the 15-month conflict in Gaza. He took credit for the negotiations, stating that the ceasefire plan developed by his team would be mainly implemented by the next administration. Earlier, the outgoing president gave a sarcastic response when asked who between him and Donald Trump would be credited for the ceasefire.
Thank you.
Books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump, who had previously threatened to destroy Hamas if a deal was not reached before his inauguration, quickly claimed credit for the breakthrough on social media. Notably, the incoming president has sent his envoy to join the negotiations in Doha, where he was present for the final 96 hours leading up to the deal.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out.
President Trump's pressure has clearly played out in a productive way, because we know now that the deal, or the semblance of the deal, is quite similar to what has been on the table since May of 2024. And it's clear that there is a Trump effect. I think more broadly, we have seen the Trump administration come in with a new, very transactional approach. And in the run-up to his inauguration, he has used bluster and hardline tactics as part of his negotiation sort of process. This is not the first time we're witnessing this, and I think it is proving to be effective.
Thank you.
Books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Both teams should be getting the credit for this. Certainly, the Biden team has been leading and managing negotiations for quite some time, but it has been abundantly clear that Biden himself has been unwilling to exert the necessary pressure on Prime Minister Netanyahu. And that has been really problematic and a cause of the longer-term obstruction we have seen.
Tensions in the Pacific are escalating, with U.S. Congressman Michael McCaul warning that China's aggressive actions could spark a global conflict. In a recent interview, he described his observations during a visit to the region. Take a look.
It's always fascinating. In Australia, the way it's positioned from a geography standpoint, it really is, I would say, kind of the bulkhead or the beachhead to counter China. When I traveled to Taiwan, they did war games around the island in a very intimidating way. The South China Sea, we saw, these warships from China with heavy water cannons in a very belligerent way hitting Philippine vessels. They warned us that we are in Chinese sovereign territory, we should turn back and go home. And I think this belligerence is actually backfiring against China to some extent with the island nations. The point is, though, they're getting very aggressive, and we need deterrence in the region, and we need a counter to that to avoid a conflict which could escalate to the next World War III.
McCaul highlighted the importance of the AUKUS alliance involving the U.S., UK, and Australia as a critical measure for maintaining regional peace.
And so that's why AUKUS, I envision it was so important that we enhance this alliance between the United States, the UK, and Australia when it comes both to submarines, nuclear submarines, which are really the crown jewel of our military. I call it the beast in the ocean. And then Pillar 2, which is innovation in technology, which is AI-driven, quantum computing. If you study warfare, you know that the next wave, next generation of defense articles are going to be AI-driven. And I think this is what Chairman Xi, when he looks at this, and the landscape is what really keeps him up at night.
China is gravely concerned about it. We are open to normal military cooperation between any country, but we firmly oppose relevant countries cobbling together exclusive groupings, building bilateral or multilateral military alliances targeting China, creating division and confrontation and stoking bloc confrontation. The Asia-Pacific is a big stage for peace and development, not a wrestling ground for geopolitical competition. China is a cooperation partner for all countries, not a challenge to anyone. In disregard of the concerns of regional countries and the international community, the US, UK, and Australia have kept sending signals of AUKUS expansion, which severely impacted the peace and stability of the Asia-Pacific. Many regional countries are deeply concerned about it. As tensions grow, McCaul underscored the need for stronger alliances and cutting-edge defense capabilities to prevent further escalation.
Well, we got a lot of the major work done. This is a congressionally driven program issue. It was bipartisan, as it should be. The submarines were a very important part of this, but Pillar 2 is as well. I think what we need to do, we have the funding for the submarines, but we need to ensure that Congress's intent is fulfilled. And what do I mean by that? In the bill, we said that the president, once he certifies that their export control laws are comparable to ours, and that being UK and Australia, then he shall deliver defense articles. Doesn't say may, doesn't say discretionary.
He also expressed concerns about existing restrictions that could delay delivery of critical defense technologies under the agreement.
They have created an excluded technologies list, which in fact does exempt or accept technologies from the exemption of ITAR, which is the international regulations. So we need to work on that. And I've been assured at higher levels in the United States military that they are going to loosen those restrictions. But that is something that we, both in legislatively.
He also reminded the public that the roots of the AUKUS Pact date back to the previous administration.
But also by oversight. And I think educating the new administration coming in, this was, the inception of all this was Secretary Pompeo meeting with the OD&I in Australia during the prior administration. So I'm very hopeful that they have ownership. They will continue this vigorously.
So what does it mean for the AUKUS deal that Trump hasn't really mentioned it, either in his speeches or in his social media Truth platform? It could signal trouble ahead. Trump has a history of brushing off issues he doesn't fully understand or see the benefit of. And that's raised questions and concerns about the future of U.S. involvement in this important Pacific alliance. With things still up in the air, it's definitely something to watch out, as it could affect both U.S. relations with its allies and the overall balance of power in the region. Mark Carney, former Bank of Canada governor, has launched his bid to lead the country's ruling Liberal Party, positioning himself as a fresh alternative to Justin Trudeau. Speaking in Edmonton, Carney pledged to focus on reviving Canada's struggling economy amid growing tariff threats from the U.S.
The Bank of Canada's former governor Mark Carney launched a bid to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as leader of the country's ruling Liberal Party on Thursday. Speaking at an event in the western city of Edmonton, he cast himself as outside of Trudeau's unpopular government and said that his top focus would be Canada's struggling economy, which faces the looming threat of tariffs as high as 25% from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump.
I am going to be completely focused on getting our economy back on track. I've helped manage multiple crises, and I've helped save 2 economies. I know how business works, and I know how to make it work for you. I've worked around the world, but I'm grounded in what I learned right here in Edmonton. To be responsible, to be fair, to stay humble, to work together, and to never, ever give up.
Despite his pitch, Carney did have close ties to Trudeau. He was named the chair of a task force on economic growth last year. Carney worked for Goldman Sachs before joining the Canadian Finance Ministry in 2004. He was named Bank of Canada governor in 2007 and later a governor of the Bank of England. His main rival looks to be former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. She resigned last month over policy differences with Trudeau. Fallout from that led to Trudeau resigning as Prime Minister. The Liberal Party is alarmed by poor polling numbers ahead of an election this year. And should a new Prime Minister be named by early March, he or she is unlikely to be in office for long. The minority government could be toppled in Parliament as soon as the end of March, and that would trigger an election which polls say the official opposition Conservatives could win.
Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been sentenced to 14 years in prison for land corruption. A court in Rawalpindi delivered the verdict inside the prison where Khan has been held since August 2023. He and his wife, Bushra Bibi, were convicted of accepting land from a real estate developer in exchange for illegal favors during his premiership. Both had pleaded not guilty. Bushra Bibi, who was out on bail, has also been taken into custody. Khan's party calls the case baseless, saying it will collapse under scrutiny. This verdict is a major blow for Khan, whose party performed well in the 2024 election but failed to gain a majority. Jailed since 2023, Khan faces multiple cases including corruption and inciting violence following his removal from office in 2022.
Today, the trial court of the National Accountability Bureau has convicted Imran Khan and he's sentenced him to 14 years imprisonment. And he has also convicted the spouse of Imran Khan to 7 years imprisonment. We consider this to be a verdict which is not based on facts, it's against the evidence. It is actually a witch hunt. It's political victimization. Khan Sahib has done no wrong. He has committed no crime. He is simply there in the jail just to put a pressure on him, and it's a political victimization. We would file an appeal against these judgments, and sentences in the Islamabad High Court, and we hope he will get justice, inshallah.
We are going to appeal this in the High Court, and we will definitely go and take all the legal remedies available to us.
A massive fire broke out yesterday at a giant battery storage plant in Northern California, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate their homes. Flames and thick smoke billowed into the sky as firefighters battled the blaze at the Moss Landing power plant. Now, this plant stores energy from sources like solar panels, but these batteries can be incredibly dangerous when they catch fire. Officials ordered about 1,500 people to leave the area as a precaution. The company that owns the plant says everyone was safely evacuated, and an investigation into the cause of the fire is underway. Schools in the area are closed today as a safety measure. Meanwhile, firefighters are still battling to contain nearly 40,000 acres of wildfires that have claimed at least 27 lives now and destroyed over 12,300 structures. And some residents have been allowed back into evacuation zones, but tens of thousands are still anxiously waiting to see if their homes are intact.
I think we're making it pretty clear that there are multiple reasons why we cannot let people in yet. Yes, we're trying to work towards that. I'm going to say it's probably at least a week out. You've heard that already. Our search and rescue operations continue in both the Eaton and Palisades area. Searches are continuing, and we still have a variety of work and structures to go through. But even as we're going through some of these grids, there are areas that we are holding because we believe there may be deceased victims there. We have to hold for the right time and the right resources to process the scene correctly, and that's going to take a little while.
We're looking at repopulation efforts. That's what it is right now. The fire is slowly being contained, and the safety, the hazards because of the fire aren't so severe, but at the same time, we need to get residents back in. So that's our primary focus. That's the primary focus of not only the Sheriff's Department, but the Fire Department, the Public Health, and the utilities, is to get residents back into the populated areas. So even though a home is still standing as opposed to a home that's burned down, there's still safety hazards out there. We have to remember on the main roads, there's down trees, down power lines, there's debris. It was a very, very windy night. I was here that evening, and the winds were gusts of 100 miles an hour. So there was debris everywhere. And we're doing a systematic approach to that as far as clearing. So some areas where houses may not be burned and residents want to get back in, they need to understand that it's still not safe because of the hazards in the road.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta is cracking down on price gouging, warning businesses and landlords against taking advantage of wildfire victims.
Some say, well, there's a higher demand, and we can charge these prices based on higher prices based on the increased demand. Well, demand be damned. You must follow the law. And the law does not allow you to increase prices more than 10% from before the declaration of emergency. Today, I'm announcing that DOJ has opened multiple active investigations into price gouging reports, and we will prosecute any crimes we find, be it landlords, short-term rentals, or hotels, price gouging evacuees, or predatory buyers swooping in with low-ball property offers, whether it be scams or looting. You can be sure we will hold you accountable.
The fire's causes are still under investigation, with officials focusing on a scorched slope as the possible origin of the largest blaze, the Palisades fire, which is 27% contained. The Eaton fire is 55% contained. As focus shifts to recovery, Governor Gavin Newsom has promised a large-scale rebuilding effort similar to the Marshall Plan, potentially costing tens of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service warns of dangerous fire conditions returning next week, along with concerns about mudslides on the scorched hillsides. Meanwhile, Hawaii's Kilauea began spewing lava in a new eruption on Wednesday and Thursday, and this marked its fourth eruptive phase since it came back to life in late December. Intermittent lava activity has been observed in the crater at the summit of Kilauea since the volcano reawakened on December 23. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said it was possible the lava fountain's height would increase as more gas-rich lava reaches the surface. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said it will continue to closely monitor the eruption and that it was in contact with Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and the Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency about eruptive hazards. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang NET25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
And a major setback for SpaceX. Its Starship rocket broke apart just minutes after launching from Texas on Thursday, sending flights over the Gulf of Mexico scrambling to avoid falling debris.
A SpaceX Starship rocket broke apart in space minutes after launching from Texas on Thursday. Its breakup was seen over the skies of the Caribbean. Clips online showed fiery debris above the Turks and Caicos Islands, and Reuters captured a view of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. The company said it lost contact 8 minutes after liftoff when its upgraded Starship upper stage, the top part of the rocket. It was carrying the company's first test payload of mock satellites.
We did lose all communications with the ship, so that is essentially telling us that we had an anomaly with that upper stage. So we're just coming up to the end of that ascent burn for the ship when we stopped when we started to lose a couple of the engines. We saw those dropping out, and then we did lose telemetry from the ships.
Elon Musk said a preliminary assessment showed an internal leak of liquid oxygen fuel led to the rocket's breakup. The incident caused airline flights over the Gulf of Mexico to reroute to avoid debris. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration said it briefly slowed and diverted planes around the debris area, but that normal operations have resumed. The FAA will likely open a mishap investigation that would ground Starship and check if debris fell on populated areas or outside the hazard zone. A probe could delay Musk's goal of 12 Starship tests this year, depending on fixes and an FAA investigation. Though Musk, after the incident, said on X that, quote, "Nothing so far suggests pushing next launch past next month." He has repeatedly criticized the FAA for overreaching and making politically motivated decisions. Thursday's mission was SpaceX's 7th Starship test since 2023, part of Musk's plan to build a rocket for Mars travel and launching satellites. SpaceX's test-to-failure method has led to big failures before, but Thursday's happened during a mission phase it had passed before.
Nintendo finally lifted the lid on its next-gen console, announcing the Switch 2. Take a look.
Nintendo has finally revealed a successor to its big-selling Switch game console. The Japanese firm said Thursday that the Switch 2 would launch later this year. Its most obvious upgrade is a bigger screen compared to the original. The company said games from the first Switch would be playable on the new device, but not always fully compatible. It didn't reveal a price or many other details. Nintendo said more information would come at an event in early April. Thursday's news had been long awaited. The original Switch console transformed the fortunes of the Kyoto-based firm. After its earlier Wii U device proved a flop, Nintendo has sold more than 145 million units of the Switch worldwide. Its life has been extended by models with updated hardware and a series of hit games from franchises like Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda. But the console has been on the market since 2017, leaving gamers and investors both keen for an update. One analyst told Reuters that the Switch 2 would reinvigorate hardware sales for the company. However, another expressed disappointment that the device appeared to be more like an upgrade than an all-new model. Nintendo shares fell over 6% in early trades Friday following the news, having scaled all-time highs the day before.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. Good night.
This program is supported by BioQuick.